Hello and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Ayo Makinde.
It's a beautiful Wednesday morning from here in Lagos. I'm Kayode Okikelu.
We have been confronted with questions regarding doing census very close to election year. We don't think it should present any problem to Nigeria because we've had that in the past. We had census in 2026 and the election took place 2006 and election took place in 2007 and we hope that once we get the approval we can start our census activities 2001 and finish in 2002 and still be able to conduct election in 2023.
So that's the plan. Have another, census. We have often talked about the limitations of data, the ones that we do not have. But then the question that a good number of people will be asking is, how about all of the data we already have? People have over and over again talked about data from the vehicle licenses, driver license, vehicle license, banks, and so many other, data like that. So is there any plan along the line to integrate those into the plans that we have for a central data system for the country so that we can be able to adequately plan to tackle security or a lack of it, to tackle unemployment, to tackle poverty, and so many other issues like that. And then, so that is on the one hand. While it's a good idea to have this plan, is it going to be the same as before, or is just going to be a completely different one this time around? We have had census in this country, spent humongous amount of money, and those census figures never really saw the light of day. A few will come to mind. The one under the Abacha government was one. I think the one about 1956 or thereabout was another one that a number of people are wondering, okay, so how come this didn't see the light of day? So that is that. We hope that this will not be another one like that, because we definitely need those figures so that we can be able to plan adequately.
Well, I have a lot of questions, really, about this whole process. People will tell you census population is more political than anything. But my questions, really, on one hand, will this just be a head count? Okay, so there are 6 people in your family, all right, 6 people in this house, 10 people in this home, or will there be something more? Maybe biometrics, because, at this point, we have gone beyond headcount. You mentioned some of those databases. It's not just your name and your address. We have biometrics also, and yes, we have a lot of them, but we don't have enough. And I see this as an opportunity to ensure that all Nigerians are at least captured biometrically, such that you have people's fingerprints and all that. That will help in a lot of ways. The possibilities are endless. So are we doing the same thing we did in 2006, or we're adding value to it? That is my question. If we're not doing anything different, then honestly, I think we should just leave it at the projections, really, because if you Google Nigeria's population, you see different results. You see 195.9 million people, approximately 196 million people. Well, the NPC is saying we're 206 million in Nigeria, but mind you, that's also a projection. So if we're not going to do this right, or at least, have some value added to it, then I think we're okay with the projections, really, because we need to get this right. We can't be crawling when countries are running and flying. We can't be doing things we did 14 years ago.
Yeah, especially with such a huge population of young people who have all of these smarts, with them. So most certainly, I want to believe that this is something that will be good, because we talk about data all the time, and we're going into another election in 2023. How significant will these figures help in ensuring that we have the appropriate, truly representative data to help people select the right persons that they want to in the office? Now, Added to that is the fact that with data, we'll be able to know how much fuel we consume per region in the country. Well, just yesterday, we heard that news that the federal government and Labour have agreed that there is going to be an adjustment in the price of petrol. And it has been reduced by 5 naira. Well, some say it's a little more than 5 naira, 162 naira for 6 kobo or thereabout, depending perhaps on where you buy. So the question then comes back again. Deregulated or not? So many issues about that as well.
Oh, yes. Well, it's a proposal, as you'll expect, and the plan is for this to take effect from Monday. But what caught my attention? Okay, two things caught my attention. The fact that, well, the Minister of Labour says, since NNPC is a major importer, we also have marketers in on this one. So it shouldn't be an issue, really, to cut 5 naira off the pump price of petrol. But as you'll expect, some are kicking against it. But the question now is, where would we get that 5 naira from? Or how are we cutting that 5 naira? And the plan is that they've tried to cut costs in the whole process of, getting fuel to the pump for you. So this is not exactly a subsidy. According to what we're hearing, this is just a cost-cutting measure. Almost a tongue twister there. Which is interesting for me, really, because we've talked about cutting costs. I mean, you know how much it takes to even drill for a barrel of oil to produce that. And we say that it is not cost effective. So looking in the way of cutting costs is good news for me. But you know what they say now, we're asking for more cost-cutting measures. I should stop using that phrase.
The cost-cutting measures is on whose part? Well, naturally, as you have also highlighted, it is not something that is going to be in the responsibility of the marketers. So is it the government that is cutting the costs now?
It's from the importing process. Exactly. Ensuring that they cut on demurrage and all those things.
Fine, but then which deposit is being cut? The one that is just coming in, or the 2.9 billion liters that NNPC told us we already had in storage? That's another question. I hope we'll be able to get an answer to that one. But then you may want to take a look at this.
For the 6th time since the federal government announced a hike in the pump price of petrol and electricity tariff in November, members of the organized labor movement and the federal government team are meeting in this hall to continue the discussions on the demand of the workers' union. Both the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress had called for a reversal of the recent hike, threatening to embark on a nationwide strike and protest, reason why the government had to convene this meeting a month ago. At the last meeting, the federal government says it needed 1 week to make further consultations. At the opening of the rescheduled meeting, both parties expressed optimism about addressing the impasse.
I want also to ask all that will make this meeting as brief as possible, because during the period of consultation, I have the great opportunity to know that a lot of work have gone into the demands and the palliatives, and I can safely say that on the government side, a lot of goodies have been acquired for the Nigerian workers and the Nigerian people.
We are supposed to make some tremendous progress arising from the 2 meetings that have taken place. We have been well briefed, and I think items have been well articulated. My hope is that we should be able to make progress that will address this issue substantially, and also we should be able to plan ahead.
The meeting then enters into a closed-door session. When the meeting ended, both the labor unions and their federal government counterpart announced their resolution.
We have agreed that there will be a slide down on the present price of pump price of petrol, PMS, and that the price slide will get us a cut of about 5 naira per liter, and that this slide will take effect from next week, Monday, a week today.
Mutually, we have agreed that in the meantime, certainly the price have to go down. And we have mutually agreed that at least for now, it will have to go down with 5 naira. But importantly, is also to protect Nigerians from the volatility in the oil and gas market.
The reduction of pump price of petrol is only one of the demands of the organized labor movement, but the second demand, which has to do with the call to review the recent hike in electricity tariff, will have to wait till next year when the meeting will reconvene.
Well, the papers are quite heavy this morning. Perhaps an evidence that so much is happening, really. We'll start with the Guardian newspaper for you. The lead story, new 162 naira petrol pump price triggers confusion, queries. Concerns over transparency, regulatory roles, marketers kick, deny knowledge of new price. Are you surprised? Well, the story starts on the front page, continues on page 6. That is meant to start on Monday, but clearly there's still a lot of areas to resolve regarding
if
that.
it was a speculated increase.
I mean, there will be no kicking. Just a quick changing, and then, you receive the memo later. But that's the lead story for The Guardian, and right under the big pictures, you see 868 billion naira export-bound goods stock in seaports, rather. And, this is just really shocking. Maritime workers threaten strike. Shippers appeal to labor. Now, 868 billion naira, that's about $2 billion. Well, that's The Guardian for you this morning.
There's so many questions to answer about that one. So many questions definitely to answer about that one but that is definitely some good money there. The Nigerian Tribune has this one. Shake up in APC. Excos at ward, LG, state levels dissolved. Expels former acting national chairman Eta. Extends National Caretaker Committee tenure by 6 months. PDP wants INEC to deregister APC over party structure dissolution. Opposition party relishes beer parlor gossip. Lacks focus, APC replies. That story, of course, is on page 2 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Right above the nameplate, at a meeting with governors, Buhari says borders to reopen soon. Wants them to work with traditional rulers. Says ASU unmindful of national challenges. APC, NWC, governors, senators, reps meet ahead Buhari's session with National Assembly. So many stories indeed, as Kaudi has said this morning. Right beside that one, 90-year-old receives world's first Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine in the UK. So I guess the heat is on then. Stories on page 24. The back page has sports. Pogba will leave Man U, according to his agents. Now, who is losing sleep over that? The Nigerian Tribune has more details.
Well, I know someone who's losing sleep about that. But take a look at Leadership newspaper. The lead story, fortifying party structure ahead of 2023. APC dissolves organs, extends Bunileg Caretaker Committee's tenure by 6 months, grants waiver to Mai Dogara others, expels South-South National Vice Chairman Eta, PMB charges committee to rebuild party from ward to national level, says party decisions must be obeyed. So leadership leads with party politics this morning, but right under that story you see insecurity. PMB governors engage royal fathers in intelligence gathering. That would be good to see, really, because you expect that the royal fathers, the traditional rulers, they're in touch with the people, so they know their people, they know what's going on. So this should be good for intelligence gathering. I think it brings up that conversation about whether or not to give them a role in the Constitution.
Yeah. I think the good thing about this, which should give us some good attention, or rather good, food for thought, is that many people who are old enough now would remember that back in time, the question is, whenever you're in any village or any society, whose child are you? Because your behavior must represent that of the community.
Oh, yeah.
Who's even asking that question anyway?
You?
The Daily Times newspaper is next and leads with this one. PDP mocks as APC dissolves structures, extends Boni's term. That story is on page 2. Right under the pictures you see there, insecurity. Buhari asks governors who work with monarchs over insecurity. And right on the other side, federal government bows to pressure, reduces fuel price by 5 naira. More of that right on the inside page. It's page 4, to be specific, of the Daily Times newspaper today.
The next up is the Daily Trust. And the lead story, APC to decide on zoning June 2021. That's just about 7 months or thereabouts from now. You see, as NEC extends Buni-led committee tenure, grants waiver to Mai Dogara. We must respect our pre-merger agreements. Buhari, he made some statements regarding what was, when the APC was coming together, how it seemed as though everybody respected everyone's opinion and decisions, but clearly things have changed. State LG Ward Excos to serve as caretaker committees, ex-national vice chair protest expulsion. PDP wants ruling party deregistered. So that's a twist, really. It is on page 5 of the Daily Trust. And you see, agency acquires equipment to monitor calls, messages by Nigerians. That's on page 4 of the Daily Trust.
I want to know which agency is that.
So more details on page 4, and clearly this is a conversation starter. I mean, lots of questions really running through my mind. So I wonder what it is for you. Let us know. Our social media handles Sunrise Daily now on Twitter. But that's the Daily Trust for you.
The Vanguard newspaper leads with End SARS protests. When in danger, use your arms. IGP tells policemen. That story is on page 5. I hope that you have more details for better understanding of what the story is about on page 5 of the paper this morning, and don't just go with the headline, because it's subject to all shades of interpretation when you see it just as it is. Directive in order, says Ohaneze. IGP statement unfortunate, Ayo Adebanjo. Benue, tribal leaders, Middle Belt group kick. It's clear government has gone aloof, Junaid Mohammed says. An attempt to stifle freedom of expression, Chief Shonibare says. Right to self-defense belongs to Nigerians. That's according to CODA, so CSO. Another protest ill-advised, says Okorie. CSO's slam IGP on directive. Again, just as I said, it is subject to all shades of interpretation. When in danger, use your arms, IGP tells policemen. That story is on page 5. I mean, we haven't had policemen on the roads for a while, and people are wondering what exactly is happening. Right beside the picture you see right there, strike. We've kept our promises with ASU. That's according to the federal government. The story is on page 11. Clearly, students are raring to go back to class. How soon? We wait. On the back page is Vanguard Sports. I don't even know how to go about this one, but that's what you have there. We gonna kick out Nigeria.
Like, we're gonna kick out Nigeria.
We're gonna kick out Nigeria. Oh, yeah. We're gonna kick out Nigeria.
Oh, nice one there.
Oh dear. Well, that's what you have right there. And so many other stories to pick from right on that page there. We're gonna kick up Nigeria. Oh my God. That's the Vanguard today.
Okay, let's take a look at Nigerian News Direct. Leads with security. Buhari, 36 governors in closed-door meeting over insecurity. And, of course, the president's spokesperson gave some insight into the issues that were discussed at that meeting just yesterday. And that meeting, yes, happened, closed door. We got some insight. But don't forget, we're looking forward to another meeting, in some sense, at the National Assembly. And it is expected that I mean, Nigerians will get to hear firsthand what's happening regarding security from the president, who is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. So that's one to look forward to as we digest this one that happened yesterday. And you see a picture of the governors, really, that meeting that held at the council chamber yesterday. And you see, FAN remits 2 billion naira to consolidated revenue account. That's 2020. But this one, quite shocking. Right on top of the nameplate says, Africa loses $140 billion a year to corruption. That's coming from CIPE, $140 billion. I mean, take a look at Ghana's GDP, for example. It's just about $70 billion. So $140 billion. That's like a nation's GDP times
whatever figure you want to put. Because I also remember looking at some figures of what the president had said about illicit transfers in and out of Africa and so on. The question you want to ask is, what are we doing exactly to ensure that these illicit funds don't just go around again? It may not be unconnected or may be connected with that figure that you just raised there. So that is one figure there. And there are so many other figures being banked.
Yeah, but another angle is the fact that, these funds are taken and lodged somewhere. Mm-hmm. So yes, Africa is painted as the hub of corruption in some light. But then they're enablers of those corrupt acts. There are, companies, banks out there that are actually taking this fund. So is this half story?
There's a proverb in Africa that says, the thief is not the one who gets the good. It's the one who keeps the thief, or who keeps the good. But then I don't think that proverb is recognized in those countries that you're talking about. The Daily Independent is last newspaper we're looking at this morning, leads with this one. 2021 budget unlikely to lead to economic recovery, according to a report. What report you may want to find out on page 4. Well, the story continues on page 4. Remember when we were having this conversation, we were talking about, how far-reaching can this be in helping businesses to be boosted and all. To a large extent, many are thinking that this is not particularly so much favorable to small businesses, but to big. But even to the big companies, I don't know, the jury is still out there on how far-reaching this will be. It would be a good read for you to find out what exactly this is talking about. Well, under that picture that you've seen on other pages of the papers, complaints greet APC NEC dissolution of party structures. Buhari's camp moves to weaken Tinubu's influence ahead 2023. What an angle. Party OK's extension for Boni-led committee by 6 months. Dissolved state executives may challenge decision in court. Reenact conditions that secured us victory in 2015. Buhari charges. My expulsion. APC NEC meeting. Illegal. Hilliard Etta declares. That story is on page 28 of the Daily Independent newspaper this morning, among so many others that you may want to pick from. But that's the Daily Independent today.
Well, that's an end look at dailies, but we're back in a moment to take a look at some of the major issues making the rounds on the dailies. Please stay with us.
It's an endless conversation, or so it seems. When will it end is the question on the lips of so many. The National Assembly has asked that the president should address them, especially concerning this particular issue, because they, more than 450 of them, represent, according to NPC figures, 206 million Nigerians in the National Assembly. And for them, they need to be able to have something to take back to their constituents. What are the expectations, especially in the light of current experiences that we're having in various parts of the country, irrespective of what region it is? Two gentlemen joined us this morning to have this conversation with us. Adam Sabo is a former Assistant Director, Internal Security of the SSS. He's a fellow, International Institute of Professional Security and Intelligence Consultants. He is a security and intelligence consultant. He joins us along with Alfred Ononugbo, who is a forensic investigator and security consultant. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time this morning. Let me begin with you, Mr. Abu. This is where we are.
Yeah.
And one of the major questions, yes, one of the major questions on the lips of so many is, what are we not getting right? We have had so many suggestions, many of them rightly, many of them, some believe there are political considerations. What exactly is it that we are missing that's allowing this to continue and we just get behind it and not ahead of it?
Thank you very much. Thank you, viewers and the presenter. I think the issue is from the beginning, like the army spokesperson said that he was there some 20 years back. From the beginning, we have not been doing the right thing. And because we were not responding appropriately to the threat that was existing then, the situation continued to expand. Take for instance, at the time the boys were being used as thugs, nobody felt anything, no government had felt anything was wrong for them to do the right thing by stopping thuggery and looking at developmental agenda in that region and in fact in other parts of the country. And when it continued unabated, you discover that even the security forces were somehow taken aback when they started. We didn't have enough capacity building to deal with the situation. We don't have enough logistics to deal with the situation. And the citizenry were not properly indoctrinated against terrorism. And so, and you know, one of the major objectives of terrorism is to create fear into the minds of the citizenry so that they can have their way. All these have been going on. And you remember in the former administration, we accused them, of course, rightly too, that they were not doing enough. And when the present government came in, they tried their best. I think at the initial stage, they seemed to be overcoming the terrorists. But I remember vividly in one of my presentations, at that time they were saying they have been defeated, they are negotiating. In every terrorist activity, or even insurgency, when they are beginning to slow down, you should know that they are planning other strategies. And when they came back this time around, they began to do new things. They went into kidnapping, robbery.
Just a quick one, Mr. Abu.
Themselves.
Just one moment, Mr. Abu. You just said now that they slowed down at some point and we didn't take advantage. How far back was this, and
Yes.
whose responsibility was it to have stepped in to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Of course, at that time that they slowed down, it was the responsibility of government
the government. Kindly,
empower.
which agency of government should have been ahead of it?
The federal government, who is in charge of all the national security forces, was supposed to have, within that period, provided them. You have heard of cries of inadequate logistics, arms and ammunition, and so on and so forth. If you look at most of the fights we have taken so far, I do not want to say that we have been very, very reactive. But there are very many occasions the air power has been going to their camp, dealing with the situation. But because the Northeast was not effectively checkmated, the Northwest came up and became something even more, deadlier than, so to say, than the North, because that is expanding at a very faster rate than even the Northwest, taking over from Sokoto down to Niger, to Niger State and so on. So I think at that period in time, we needed to do more. We needed to have taken the fight to their enclave. If you look at most of the time, even sometimes they beat us to it by ambushing our fighting forces, taking surprises and things like that. So those are the things that brought us to where we are today. And they have spread so much. Don't forget that at the time we think they have gone down, they were spreading across the country by way of setting themselves where to kidnap, to finance their operations. Now that some of the international, channels of financing are being blocked here and there, that is the reason why we are where we are today. And Nigerians, again, have not been supportive enough because they believe that government has not been doing, to their own understanding, enough. So, in most cases, even the people they are saying they should be recruited.
One moment, Mr. Abu, just one moment. When you say Nigerians haven't been supportive enough, just what do you mean?
Yes. What I mean is, okay, if you open any media these days, it's condemnation. How many of them, how many Nigerians have been really coming out to say, okay, this is our role in terms of even ordinary intelligence? I don't want to even use the word intelligence. Let me use information. How many of them have been providing information to the fighting forces, the intelligence arm of the various organizations?
Okay, all right, Mr. Abu. Yes, just one. Let's take the opening comments of Mr. Onanugo as well. He's a forensic investigator and security consultant. Well, this has been going on for long enough. I'm sure you probably want to first of all react to some of the things that you've heard.
Yeah, first, good morning, everybody, and thank you for having me on. It's rather worrisome that we are at the point and this stage in our national history. How we arrived here is what most people are struggling to identify. I also want to thank Mr. Abu for coming on. I appreciate some of his comments. It's scary. Nigerians are in pains. And in every conflict, what people often see are the fallouts. Not many people pause to ask who actually are the beneficiaries of these conflicts and what purposes do these conflicts serve. Crime is older than humanity, but in the Nigerian context, we've had more than enough. It's scary. It's very worrisome. Even the government.
Yeah, Mr. Onanugo, you said that in every conflict there are beneficiaries. Could you expatiate, because some will be wondering who would be benefiting from conflicts where people are dying?
Exactly what I meant. There's the local and there's also the international dimension to the benefits. For the local, sometimes it sounds political purposes. Some other times it's economic. Sometimes it's even individuals that are deriving benefits from conflicts. And then on the global scene, of course, it affords some countries opportunities to sell weapons or to control the political direction and interests of weaker nations. At some point also, you find out that there is a territorial contest. People want to control territories because of either resources in those environments. So all these things we put together. And I think Nigeria has been hit so much by these conflicts because first, we're naturally endowed and interests have been registered on Nigerian resources, probably until we began to hear certain things recently. And then internally, we've had ethnic political drives, we have religious issues, and of course, the challenging and crippling economic interests. So these are some of the interests. And some people somewhere benefit from these conflicts. Without those benefits,
and these likely beneficiaries that you mentioned now, are these beneficiaries that you talk about, are they known to the authorities?
Certainly, they should be known to the intelligence, let me borrow the word, the intelligence communities. But you know, there's a protocol. There's a diplomatic protocol in pronouncements. There are measures they use to check and due diligence on some level of discussions that inhibit people from either coming forward when those threats are identified. You don't escalate them. They try to micromanage. They also weigh potential benefits mutually shared by the interests. So these are some of the conflict, the breeding ground for some of these problems. They are very well known. We are not, for instance, the ammunitions being used by the terrorists, for instance, were not produced in Kano. They were not made in Afa, in Enugu State. They were not, so someone produces them. Someone paid for them. Transactions are not done in purchasing these weapons from nowhere. So there are tracks. And in forensic, we say that there can be no contact without a trace. So that's the challenge we have.
You say we're challenged in terms of tracing, contacting, or just really going straight up for the source of this issue? Where is the challenge here?
I think, first of all, the challenge first comes with our political institutions and, of course, our national orientation. Sadly, Nigeria has been plagued by ethnic politics, and sometimes religious dimensions are added to these challenges. So when you feel that your benefactors serve or declared interests, you'll be hesitant to push those things out. I'll give you a few instances. Just roll back a little bit. When Nigeria plunged themselves into ethnic politics, political parties were identified on ethnic lines, and then political leaders began to promote religious interests just to win the mandate of the people. These were time bombs laid over the years. They eroded basic patriotism. We weakened the structures of nationalism, so that if I see, for instance, a northerner from the northeast, a Fulani man or a Kanuri man in distress or in a situation in Ijebu-Ode, my attitude should be to, first of all, make sure that he is safe and secure. I will not begin to identify him first as his ethnic bearings or his religious inclinations. So we lost it there. We lost patriotism. We lost that passion to make our nation great, to make it a place for everybody. We began to fight. So it moves into, for instance, recruitment into services, whether it is security services or public services. There are strong ethnic bias.
But you know,
to the
a
extent
place
that we have.
One of the places that you're not meant to see such is the National Assembly, what we call a place for everyone. And that will form a major part of our conversation moving forward, because we've seen different issues raised on security at the floor of the Senate and the House of Representatives. And perhaps the biggest one in recent times is that invitation to President Muhammadu Buhari to address now the joint session of the National Assembly on what is being done about security in Nigeria. So let me take on Mr. Abu first on this one. So we're counting down to that address, interaction, closed-door session. We're not entirely sure what it will be with the National Assembly, that's the President and the National Assembly. For you, I mean, seeing the trends regarding security, what will make a great appearance by the President at the National Assembly tomorrow?
Thank you very much. I think the president is going to tell them what he has been doing, what he's doing now, and what he intends to do. But before I make that comment, let me make comment on the National Assembly themselves. I want Nigerians to look at their representatives. What have they done as means of their contribution to national security in this country. Now, if you look at the funding of national security agencies, the army, the armed forces, the police, and so on. If you look at it, over all this while, since the existence of this country, it has been the responsibility of federal government. It's just of recent that they said, okay, let there be a police fund or something like that. Over the years, some of us who are practitioners, we saw the massive load of funding on the part of government, federal government, and we discovered that they alone will not be able to fund these agencies appropriately to provide the necessary logistics. It is the responsibility of the National Assembly to look at what the role of the three tiers of government will be so that they can contribute to funds. I tell you that if a local government chairman gives any DPO 50,000 naira today to report their vehicle, they believe they are favoring him because there is no any law. It's just like some state governments that are even helping some of the agencies to buy one vehicle or the other. They are doing it because they are the chief security officer of their state, but there is no any law that backs it up, for them to provide these resources. Can't the National Assembly over these years think about it to appropriate to the various tiers of government adequate funding that can be, channeled to these agencies for them to perform? It is because these agencies don't have enough to perform. That is why.
Well, we're having some difficulty with your connection, but we'll stay in touch just to rectify that. But Mr. Ononugbo, he was talking about the role of the National Assembly in security just before he, touched on the president's appearance tomorrow. But touching on what he said, really, regarding the National Assembly's role, before we talk about the president, how would you rate the National Assembly really in this whole security challenge? Because, there are three tiers of government, so you expect that the legislature would at least pull their weight in this. So how would you rate the National Assembly?
First, I would like to, without any bias, apologize to Nigerians for our ignorance. I think, to me, and I want to be honest with myself, I see elements of hypocrisy in our National Assembly, and I think people might be scared to make such bold statements. The recent challenge we had with COVID-19 exposed a lot of things. Nigerians are quick to forget. We found out we have no properly equipped medical establishments, basic promises that every politician makes to their communities. And I think these are some of the foundations and fertilizers for insecurity in our society. And now some of these men have not demonstrated that kind of commitment to ensuring peace and stability in our communities. Going into politics, they're the ones who engage on authorized means to win elections at all costs. So you now sit back to wonder, what do you think that man will be doing at the National Assembly? And because of the media coverage being a National Assembly member enjoys, we see people talk things they do not believe in and say things they don't do. So I don't expect any new thing coming out of the meeting from the National Assembly. These are, people should speak up. They should be people we should naturally see their commitment to the safety of our communities or senatorial zones. They shouldn't wait until this crisis takes over the whole place and engulfs the entire nation before going forward to Mr. President. The media have been screaming and shouting about the state of insecurity across the entire country. People have been kidnapped, communities have been sacked, and you wonder, where have these National Assembly members been?
Yes, just one moment. Just one moment, Mr. Ononugbo. The responsibility of members of the National Assembly is to make laws, all right? And that's significantly, they would say that they have been doing. But then a good number of times they also pass resolutions, like counsel to the executive on certain things to do. And it was just recently that the president of the Senate was saying that the president should endeavor to take their resolutions very, very seriously. The resolutions are not as binding as an act, a bill that they have passed to the president and the president has signed. So when you say you do not have any confidence or any much expectation from this National Assembly, do you think they have enough powers to be able to get anything done that they have not done, or that their resolutions are what they are limited to?
To be honest with you, they have total powers, absolute powers. These are men with a mandate of over 200 million Nigerians to go to the National Assembly and represent our interests. There can be no other power beyond that. They were elected to bring to the table the interests of those who gave them the mandate, which are the Nigerian people. If they were there to serve Nigerian people, I don't think seeing themselves and making excuses with the fact that they were lawmakers. Lawmakers, you don't make laws when there are no need for such. You make laws based on the needs of the people. For instance, I think they make laws that sometimes sounds quicker. Let me use the word quicker. They make quicker laws that serve their interests, like sitting allowances, benefits. Nigerians have been shouting about their allowances. Teachers are paid peanuts, universities have been closed down, and they are more comfortable with taking whatever that they collect from sitting in the National Assembly. So these people are not in tandem with the actual needs of our society and even their lifestyles. How can my representative visit my community with a cocktail of armed police guards? When he's campaigning, I can reach him easily. When he becomes elected, he becomes invisible and inaccessible. So they've lost touch with the actual Nigerian people. And
Mr. Honorable, like you said, he or she is your representative, basically saying that you gave the person a mandate. You have some sort of power. I mean, the Constitution says you could recall your representative. So as much as you say that that arm of government is not doing enough, isn't that also saying that the people they're representing who gave them the mandate are probably not even putting them to task enough?
Well, unfortunately, you are correct. We probably do not understand the derivables we stand for in democracy. We do not understand democracy to that extent because we are used to creating lords and gods. And when we create them, they will naturally lord over us. They will be God over our lives. Probably we should do more. Maybe when we have men with vision, men with, passion for nationhood, we will educate our people and give them the opportunity to make such demands on us. But not when even the system in itself serves the exclusive few. And I'll give you an instance. We have more policemen, for instance, guarding these guys than police posts in some of our communities. You will find 2-3 people in a police post securing a community of about 500 to 1,000 people. And a senator or a House of Reps or even councillor from their community moves around with 2-3 armed police escorts. That's part of the culture that the people do not see any
Son
place
Honorable,
for themselves.
you would recall that the Inspector General of Police has actually said that all those officers be recalled from such VIPs, as they are called. But then we'll continue this conversation when we return from this break. Just stay with us. Well, thanks for staying with us. Mr. Abu, you were saying the other time something about the National Assembly not, legislating enough to support the efforts we're making at winning this battle. But then, isn't it sufficient or as significant at least for the members of the National Assembly to ask questions of the monies that have been budgeted to fight insecurity over the years? Your mic might be on mute, but let me go back to Mr. Ononugbo while you are trying to resolve that. Well, so Mr. Ononugbo, you heard him say the other time that, the National Assembly is also probably responsible, partly because, in terms of funding, they haven't done enough to ensure that the National Assembly the security operatives get enough. How do you respond to that?
I'm in total agreement with him, and I think that reinforces my position about their hypocrisy. Unfortunately, I have to use that choice of word with due respect, and I will be quick to add, not because I approve all the actions of Mr. President, but you see, there are layers of platforms in governance. The president cannot be the commander-in-chief and also be the infantryman on the street and on the road. He cannot be the police officer in the communities. He cannot be the taxi drivers. So every arm of the society, when we play our roles, we'll get the results that we expect in our environment. So the National Assembly...
I want you to react to something, Mr. Ononugbo. Just one moment. I would like you to react to respond to what he said earlier about, the cooperation or lack of it of members of the community. But let me take him back. I think we have him back now. So, Mr. Abu, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. You see, like you're talking about the National Assembly. I am saying that if they come back, if they ask questions, what would they do thereafter? We are aware of how much was looted from the arms fund in the former administration. Like my colleague there was saying that there are people that benefit from this crisis. Those people that took those funds benefited from the crisis. But what has been the role of the National Assembly? But I want to say here that it is not that they don't have the power to do something. But like my colleague has been saying, but because they are always only interested in what they benefit from. But let me leave them apart. Let me not waste my precious time on that. What is the president going to say? And what is going to be the way forward? I want to say this.
President will say, Mr. Abu, just one moment. Before we get to what the president will say, there are a good number of ministries, departments, and agencies who are taxed constitutionally and otherwise to fight insecurity. One of them is the department where you worked before, the Department of State Security. And, of course, being an agency responsible for giving intelligence information, to use the word you used earlier, one would wonder, why do these things catch us unawares?
You see, this is the thank for this opportunity for Nigerians to understand. Understand that every intelligence organization all over the world is an advisory body. It is not an enforcement organization. It is to provide intelligence, and it is now, what is intelligence? Intelligence is that information that has been analyzed for the purposes of policy making or security operation. Now, if they don't use it for security operation, that was what happened even before the commencement of this Boko Haram of 15. There was intelligence, but we never dealt with it. And even when we were supposed to deal with it, we did not deal with it. We did not allow. Don't forget that when kidnapping started, the government in power, even with credible intelligence, said there was nothing like that. And
just
today,
to clear,
where are we?
Pardon me, just to get, Nigerians to understand better. So you say the DSS basically gathers intelligence and they don't enforce, but we've seen the DSS arrests time and again. So is that going out of the constitutional role of the DSS or what?
No. See, let me say this. Have you seen where, except in special operations, no doubt about that. But the kind of operation we have here in the Northeast, in the Southwest, this is an operation that defense forces are also involved. But you see, it is not about intelligence not being there. but it's also about other factors such as logistics, such as funds, such as motivation for the fighting forces. You have heard of so many video of the cries of our fighting forces over certain issues. So this thing is supposed to be addressed holistically. And so if it is not addressed, you are aware that someone, a very senior officer, was punished of recent because a video came on board about their experience. These are the issues. So we should be able, as a country and as leaders, as political leaders, because all these powers are vested in the leadership. And these resources are in the hands of the leadership.
Yeah, Mr. Abu, just when you say that intelligence information is gathered and not used, perhaps then you want to speak to the channels through which those, intelligence information get to the right persons or not. Because if those information do not get to the appropriate authorities, then there could be a problem. So what is the mode or the channel of communicating these information? And if there is any instance that you know that information got to the authorities, whether at the federal or the state level, and it wasn't acted upon, it would be good to hear.
Well, I want to say that some of the questions you are asking are classified information, which, if notwithstanding my retirement, I'm not supposed to divulge. But let me say this, that intelligence is not provided for most of the operations that are ongoing. Don't also forget that even all these other agencies also have intelligence departments. Now, if you provide intelligence and the resources in embarking to embark on the operations are not adequate, what will you do? You will make use of the little that you have, and you will achieve that objective to the extent to which you are able to do. These are some of the things that we are seeing. But I want to say this, that even the intelligence that we are talking about is not something that is not ongoing. Like I said before, how about the time we said we have decimated Boko Haram? And some of us are saying we should not rely on Boko Haram being decimated. It might be a ploy for them to plan and begin to do things differently, which came up. I mean, these are things that it is not about the intelligence not coming in or not communicated to the appropriate authority or whoever it is. And don't forget, you cannot come back to your principal to say, why did you not do this? You don't direct them.
Well, gentlemen,
rather, they direct you.
Right. Gentlemen, so as we wind down now, we would like to still preview the president's visit to the National Assembly tomorrow, because a lot of Nigerians are looking forward to that. Yes, we have classified information that might not be divulged out there, but the president has agreed, to go to the National Assembly. So clearly, there's information that he wants to give out to Nigerians, well, the National Assembly, and of course, by extension, Nigerians. So, Mr. Onanugbo, first, do you see that meeting going on as scheduled? Because there have been talks, here and there about the possibility of the president being prevailed upon not to attend that meeting. But for you, do you see it going on as scheduled?
In fairness, I think we live in a country where anything and everything is possible. I'll be glad if the meeting goes on schedule for one particular reason. It will provide Nigerians the opportunity to see the commitment, to see the concerns of those who have given a mandate to lead us. It would also provide us opportunity to watch and see if they would admit they failed or give us a score sheet on how much they are faring. The last thing is that I hope and I wish that that meeting will be translated to actions, and there should be some level of financial discipline going forward. Because so long as, even from what Mr. Abu was sharing, you will understand that even within the agencies, we have issues. And like I said when we started, when there are conflicts, if you look closely, someone is benefiting and someone feels shortchanged. And then you begin to keep back what you should naturally put on the table. So we must build back that trust. We must build back the commitment to take back Nigeria and make Nigeria our own. We must own every responsibilities that are placed on our hands. The National Assembly members and even Mr. President, the Commander-in-Chief, should take back Nigeria. Let them become owners and make us stakeholders. And then we will begin to see things. And then let there be appropriate punishment for breaches, for compromise. If an intelligence of national implication is placed on the table of people paid with taxpayers' money and they did nothing, I think very often we don't see anybody being punished for that. People should pay the price for the death of every Nigerian if they've been paid, equipped, and given the resources to do that. And on the part of the government, I need to beg us, when we are sourcing equipment and things we use for services, let's get authentic information, get it from the right sources, and put it in the hands of the right people. We can go on and on. These are things we all talk about every day. But
Well,
I look forward to that meeting.
okay, definitely. I know a lot of Nigerians also look forward to it. But Mr. Abu, there have been a lot of questions about the mode of this meeting. Will it be an address, some sort of interaction, a closed-door session? I mean, you're a security person, so you understand the peculiarity of this kind of meeting. So what should it be like? Should it be just an address, or people should be able to ask questions, or in fact, it should be closed to Nigerians? What do you expect?
I thank you very much. I want the two to go together. I want the president to address them. And again, let there be interaction between the president and his team. And then this is because we want to see what they will do after the meeting. The issue is, the one thing I want to correct here is that this crisis that has remained somehow unabated is not something that I just started in the life of this administration. If we had dealt with it earlier, even the Libyan factor, which has led to proliferation of arms into our country, would have not been there. So it is something that these National Assembly members should put politics aside and bring the national interest to bear in their contribution and deliberation with the president and his team, because we need to checkmate these guys. It is not, you know that now the issue is not about Southwest, the issue is about every part of this country. And the earlier we do something to stop it from expanding, the better for us. It is because the thing has stayed this long that people are beginning to read the religions.
Yeah, perhaps that is also the reason the president had that meeting with state governors. And at that meeting, he proposed that they should interface with their traditional rulers for local intelligence gathering, so the authorities, the security operatives themselves can have things to work with. How significant do you think, how far-reaching do you think that can be?
Thank you very much. Are we now saying that all these years the governors have not been interacting with their community leaders and traditional institutions ever since we have been having these security challenges? So you can see what I am saying. These are things we are supposed to have been doing over the years, and by now we should have seen results. Anyway, it's better, late than never. But that still does not stop them from interacting with the president, particularly in the area of funding. If there is any deficit, and they are the ones that are put forward, and there's something they can do about it, or there's a new arrangement on funding that will make funding easier for purposes of capacity building and logistics. Like my colleague said, we need the world is ruled by technology, and we need to apply them, not even just for the fighting forces, but the requirements of the various security organizations that are not appropriate need to be looked into, and so that we can find they can have something to do. But I also want to say this, that Notwithstanding, Nigeria should not lose hope in our ability. Don't forget, terrorism is not a war that you can fight for just a short period and you think it's forgotten. Think about
Mr. Abu, yes.
Afghanistan, think
Yeah.
about Somalia, and all
That
these
is
nations.
that is noted. Let me very quickly ask Mr. Ononugbo something that you said earlier, and I think I would like to take Mr. Ononugbo's opinion on that as well. If you can hear me, Mr. Ononugbo, Mr. Abu said earlier that we don't seem to be getting, government doesn't seem to be getting enough support or cooperation from the citizens in the fight against insurgency. Do you agree with him?
I totally agree. I agree because we cannot expect the few people in government to perform magic. They don't have the capacity.
Citizens
They depend.
should do about this that they have not been doing.
Yes. They need to depend on us. And that means we should believe in their, that first of all, the quality of people we elect to offices should be people we can trust with information. It's pertinent and sad to note that the Nigerian people do not have confidence and trust in some of our political leaders. Howbeit, we need to know that whether they are doing the right thing or wrong things, we are to hold ourselves responsible and accountable for their failures. Even when we're electing people, we should make sure we elect the right people. So Nigerians have failed the leaders as well. I totally agree with you.
Right. I'd just like to also ask you, would you be disappointed if that meeting does not hold? Like I said earlier on, there are feelers that maybe this might not hold. Would you be disappointed, especially because some have said, well, this is security, it's quite sensitive. You can't discuss everything about security out there. So will that be a major bummer for you?
Well, from the security point of view, for the meeting not to hold, there must be some covert reasons why the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria will decline from engaging and having dialogue with the members of the National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I look forward to that meeting, and I believe that the President has competent protocol officers and security advisors to guide him. Because where the nation is, I mean, without deviating, the NSAS, the terrorism, kidnappings, the stories are far too many for nothing to be seen to be done. Even if they will not do anything, I think their motion should be observed. Let them meet and do the usual. Use the media, tell us what they have decided, and then we will also wait for them. But I need to beg Nigerians, let's make 2023 a different year in the history of this country. Let's make choices that can impact on our national lives.
No, Mr. Ononugbo, that will mean different things to different people, but well, I think they're internalizing it their way.
I'm talking about voting. We should vote people that should help us achieve better Nigeria for us.
Okay, no, well, that clears the air. So, Mr. Abu, I mean, the same question I put to Mr. Ononugbo about the president's appearance. Just in case he fails to appear, would you be disappointed?
Yes. Well, it won't be disappointment. The issue is nobody really wants the president to be coming to talk if the needful is done, even if he does not come. But you see, even if you look at the National Assembly members you are talking about, and even most of the political leaders, they got to those offices through what I would call electoral terrorism, kidnapping, ballot snatching, and all the like, But the thing is, let the required thing be done. They could have a way, the executive can still meet with the government, with the president and his team, and ask questions about certain areas that they need clarification and what they can do. But up till now, they have not come up.
Oh, yet again.
We lost that connection there. Well, gentlemen, we definitely have to look forward to that conversation with the president and members of the National Assembly. A critical thing that you both have said is that, perhaps a little more funding and then a lot more cooperation from the citizens. Also allow the citizens themselves to engage with you on this. But we have to thank you very much for your time this morning. Adam Sabo is former Assistant Director, Internal Security of the SSS. He is a fellow of International Institute of Professional Security, as well as a security and intelligence consultant. He joined us along with Alfred Ononugbo, who is a forensic investigator and security consultant. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and thoughts.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, so we have another issue to take on right after now. Do stay with us.
Well, the ruling All Progressives Congress says it is rebuilding, and you wonder, rebuilding what? What exactly happened that now there's a need to rebuild? You recall that the last time the party had its NEC meeting, before yesterday's NEC meeting, we saw the dissolution of the Adams-Oshomole-led NWC, and some other resolutions came out of it. Now we've seen another NEC meeting, and, well, there were 5 resolutions that came out of that meeting. We'll take a look at them in a moment. But to discuss some of the issues regarding the ruling APC and perhaps the plans for 2023, we have joining us this morning on the program Mr. Curtis Adigba, who is a lawyer and political consultant. He joins us from our Lagos studio, as well as Professor Isaac Obasi, a professor of public policy and industrial relations from the University of Abuja. He joins us via Zoom this morning. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thanks
Mr. Adiba,
yes.
let me begin with you. I mean, the party says they're rebuilding. And if you take a look at the front pages of the dailies, you see reports to that effect. Do you see this as an end to the hostilities, the infighting, the divisions we have seen in the ruling party in the past few months?
Well, no one single meeting can resolve all problems within the political party. And the simple reason is a political party is a living organism because it's made up of people, human beings with different ideas, and these ideas come up from time to time. So you cannot just sit in one place and say, oh, all the issues are resolved. That's the idea of politics. Politics is about conversation. It's about looking at issues from time to time, disagreement and agreeing on the core policies and issues of the party. So in as much as I don't see that happening, that just one meeting will resolve all the issues, but I think it's a good step in the right direction. It means that there's engagement, and then from time to time, you're going to see issues that crop up being resolved. So it's a good step in the right direction.
How significant is this good step in the right direction, and how far-reaching do you see it being, given that, just as you said, those issues have hardly even been scratched in the surface?
I don't think so. You see, the truth of the matter is that I said, politics is about conversation. You are bound to have disagreement. You're bound to agree because you find people coalesce around interests. And for people like us, or like you guys, because I'm into politics a little bit,
So you're a politician?
Yes, who are not deeply involved in politics. You see things on the surface. And so time is not of essence to you. But for the actors, the participants themselves, they're counting time.
Oh, believe me, we're counting time. Just before 9 a.m.
They're counting the time. So
the show.
This is the time to begin to take your position and plan on what happens in the next election cycle. Okay, and that was what led to the crisis in APC in the first place. Because you found out that it was a clash of factions within the same party. And you saw the dance around, the political dance around who should be in charge of the party after the former chairman was removed. And that led to all the kind of crisis until the National Executive Council met and said, look, this has got to stop. We need to have a new beginning. And Malabuni came in. And he's been working on that and trying to put the party in the best possible position for the party to take off from there. That process has not been concluded, and that's what led to the extension. So the thinking was that by December we'll be talking about the National Convention, but they're still not there.
And that is why you've seen this move by the NEC extending the tenure for another 6 months. And don't forget that somebody had gone to court. And that, at the yesterday meeting, he was expelled. Because the party has the power to expel that person.
You're already going into the resolutions from that meeting, but we'll get into that. But let's get Professor Obasi's opening statements. Okay, I guess we don't have him for now. We'll get back to Professor Obasi. But yes, taking a look at those resolutions, specifically the one that concerns Mr. Etta. Now, you said the case is in court, right? Do you see the decision that was made yesterday as some sort of good faith decision, especially because you say it's in court, and now it's a back and forth?
It's not so much about good faith. You see, the political party is an organization with its own extant rules about how things should be done within the party. Now, you have clear provisions in the constitution of the party on what you should do if you are dissatisfied with certain things within the party. There are procedures that you must go through, exhaust, and if you are not satisfied, then you can go to court. Now, don't forget that the last NEC meeting before yesterday's one took a decision that all members of the party must discontinue actions that they have filed in court against the party in an attempt for the party to come together and find peace. Now, he went to court after that, because the way the matter was resolved, he wasn't happy about that. But he needed to trigger the internal mechanism and procedure of the party.
And you think he didn't do that?
Well, on the face of it, that's what the party is saying, that it did not take that option. It went to the court straight. Now, but my problem is here, is this, that we then again planting the seed for more crisis. Because Mr. Etta is actually not the big masquerade, if you understand what is going on within the party. Don't forget that when the former national chairman was sacked by the NEC, the court gave an order suspending him. And then there was this circuitous activities within the party. First, it was Victor Giadom, recognized by one court, saying he should take over from Oshomole, in an interim status until things are. And then overnight, the ETA group came up, which was supposed to be the late former governor of Oyo State, who was then supposed to take over the party as national chairman. And in his absence, Mr. Etta came in. Now, what that tells you is that this is a proxy war. Victor was fronting for some guys. Etta is fronting for another guy.
All within the APC?
All within the APC. Because, of course, we can't deny the fact that there are factions at war within the party. And that is expected. If you look at how the APC came together as a party, because you had factions of different political parties melting into one to become, they have their different ideas about what should be done. But then they overlooked those differences in terms of core vision and perspective to all these issues, because then they had one major target, which was to take power from the then ruling party, the PDP.
So as it stands now, you think the APC is still divided?
All political parties are divided. Even families are divided. But what is the extent of the division? Are the fissures so bad that it ultimately destroy the party or the family? I don't think so. I think this is something that can be mended and they can come together.
Because you say this is a proxy war. Now, Mr. Etta is still in court.
Yes.
You just mentioned the party leadership saying everybody should withdraw court cases. By the way, some people have issues with that because they think, isn't that shutting the temple of justice to people? People have a right to approach the court if they're not fine with what's going on. Even, the definition of internal party mechanism varies across boards. Some will say, if the party doesn't want to listen to me, how would I then go through the whole mechanism?
First and foremost, you understand the rules of a group before you join the group. It doesn't have to be perfect. And the courts have said that. So when you join the group, and there are things you disagree with, the rules again state that these are the processes or procedures you must exhaust before you can go to court. Because you see, you don't want to bog down the organization in court on every issue. So the rule says Ayo must be
at his desk by 8 a.m. in the morning, all right? So Ayo is not there, and he's given a query. And instead of answering the query to explain why he wasn't there, he goes to court and says, I have a right of free movement. How would that work well for the party? So if you are dissatisfied with the situation, of course, nobody says you cannot go to court at all.
But you also said something we need to take on the other guest. But you also said, earlier, you said, look, it's a function of individual interests.
Yes.
In whose interest will it be for him to go to the same people in the internal workings of the party to go and report a case where it's the very same people that he has those issues with that he is going to be discussing? Maybe we'll take that on when we introduce the next guest.
I mean, we might be speaking about a party, but we have another party in this discussion, and that's Professor Obasi. Well, the ruling party, ideally, should be some sort of standard, really, for political parties in any nation. People voted that party because they saw something they loved. Seeing the things that have played out in the APC, the back and forths, and now the latest NEC meeting, would you say that the APC is indeed a standard for political parties in the nation?
Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Hello? Is that supposed to be?
Oh, absolutely, Professor Bassi.
Oh,
it's for
great.
you.
Oh, great, great. Kyle, that observation is excellently made. The standard we are looking for is basically not there. The problem, like my co-participant has rightly pointed out, is the foundationally fractious nature of the merger as a ruling party. And it has not been quite glued. Those differences, initial differences, they have not been managed very properly. The different interests are still, which really he pointed out, we're asking him, whose interests are these actions being taken? Yes, they are. The interests are behind the scene fighting. And that's why you have not seen a very good foundation laid for the party as a ruling party. It didn't start today, and this is not a history of the political party. But one thing I have to say generally, is not just APC, is that in this country, political parties are definitely not, they've disappointed us. And my senior colleague, Professor Ladi, when parties you contest today in this party, the other day you're contesting, yeah, there is no principle guiding what they are doing, and it's purely based on the stomach and the control of the realms of power.
I was asking
Hello?
I was asking Mr. Adigwa if he thinks that there are divisions within the APC still now, and he was trying to say, well, he doesn't think the divisions are huge enough. So just what do you think? Because we have members of the concerned APC members forum who are still against some of the resolutions.
Yeah, I use my word. The first phrase I use is foundationally fractious. And it was in response to that comment he made. And if something is foundationally fractious, you see the cracks beginning to manifest as the thing goes on. If it's a building, you know what that means. The cracks will be recurring here and there over the years. That's actually what is happening. They need to work hard to glue themselves together to manage the dynamics of that particular thing they want to do in the light of changing circumstances in our country today.
Well, with that meeting, Prof, how significantly do you see that meeting addressing some of those foundational fractures that you alluded to?
Yeah, Ayo, that means the continuation of the war, the way I see it. Whether it is extension, whether it is waiver, whether it is expulsion, whether it is dissolution, watch the words. Dissolution, whether it's condemnation of the opposing party, the war continues. So I didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel from that meeting. They need to work harder. Work harder. And if political...
I'm sure we'll get Prof back, but he's saying they need to work harder, and you seem to be speaking in the same vein, Mr. Adiba. So when that kind of comment goes out, the question then is, what else needs to be done that has not been done? You also alluded to the fact that there is a need to mend fences across board. What needs to be done that hasn't been done, and is it too slow for you?
All political parties need to work harder, because...
We're discussing the AP.
Yeah, and for the ruling party, it's even much, much more important that they work harder, because they're not only governing themselves, they're also governing the country. And if there is a disconnect between the party itself and the government, you could see it in the way things would pan out in the country. And that's why it's key that they get their acts right. But having said that, I think it's important people understand that a political party, again, is made up of human beings who come with different visions, ideas, and expectations. So when you come into a political party, and that's why I felt that some of the things that happened yesterday, they didn't quite go down well with me. For instance, when you said, we donate our powers to you as NEC, we give it to you as the Standing National Working Committee to grant waiver to whoever wants to join the party. It should just come. And when it comes, it's entitled to all the rights of members who are already in the party all these years, building the party and making efforts. That's another recipe for crisis. Because what you are going to see is you're going to see all kind of people come from different political parties when they're, especially the opposition ruling party. You see what is been happening. The story about some governors still planning to move into the party. These are guys with big egos and resources. And as they come into the party, they want to take the center stage. Just like where they are coming from. You're going to have more crisis.
Wouldn't that be a true test of the popularity of those already in the party? I mean, if you don't have the support, you don't have the support. So what's the point?
True test of what? I mean, that people are moving from one party to the other.
No, the point is this. So you're saying that the fact that people come in and now they can contest overrules the chances of people that have been in the party, that have been loyal to the party for years, right? Mm-hmm. So the question now is, if those people who have been loyal to the party don't have enough support to even win an election against a new member of the party, then, I mean, the facts are there. It's clear then.
No, that's not. The facts are not there. The fact is that APC is the ruling party. It's one election in 2015. It's one election in 2019. Okay? So you cannot argue against the facts and say it's not a popular party.
No. The members within the party who are vying for posts in the party.
Yeah, but the members within the party are the same members that won the elections for the party. So if I can understand the desire to expand and bring more people into the tent, but the problem is, are there mechanisms for massaging these big egos and resources people who are coming into the party with their own expectations?
So you think the party is still too weak to take on new persons?
It's not too weak to take on new people, but does the party have what it takes? Because let me tell you something.
You answered it and then you asked the same question.
No, let me tell you something. I have a technical point that I want to make. The strength of a party is in the satisfaction of the members of that party. If they are not satisfied, as new members come in and become more prominent or occupy a bigger stage than those other members, you also have a problem of them leaving the party,
perhaps
or becoming dissatisfied.
Well, perhaps something that has frequently happened is that of concessions. That politicians generally usually make. You remember the build-up to the Edo elections, how all of that conversation went on, and there were some concessions. But let's ask Prof. This question that we have just raised now. So one of the issues, of course, you have also been hobnobbing around those resolutions, and one of the ones that we we're looking at now is that opening, that concession, that laxity given to anyone else who wants to come into the party to come in now. For you, for Mr. Adigba, it's like it's a recipe for crisis. For you, what is it?
Well, it's been there before. I was making a point that seemed not to have gone through by the way you intervened. The point I was making that when political parties celebrate their success on the strength of people they push from other parties, which my mentor, Professor Adamolako, calls a political prostitution. When it does, that's a problem. That's indeed a problem. You need to win the hearts and minds of the citizens, the voters, rather than just catching the big fishes here and there. I don't think that approach, either way, whether it is PDP or APC or any other party, concentrating on getting the big guys and not satisfying the people who who make democracy what it is. It's government of the people, for the people and by the people. So if you make it only problem of the elite, that is a problem.
Well, it is also clear that, that comment was made, by the highest governing body of the ruling party, as we say it in Nigeria today. So that is one of the resolutions. And so now that resolution has been made. How do you see it being addressed? But just to put it forward, first of all, that we didn't interject you. It was a network challenge that, happened from your end, but, we've since overcome that. So how do you think the party can address this? That resolution has been made, and I don't see how the party can come back now and say, okay, we're changing our mind about this. Or is that something that you're expecting so as to gain more confidence of the existing members?
No, I'm not talking about the party reversing itself and the rest of them. In fact, the truth of the matter, as far as I'm concerned, my own opinion, is that for me, the waiver thing is not an issue among the things that are a critical problems there. I have already made a point that if all a party does is to go and remember when the waiver was made, there was clapping of hands. Did we hear clapping of hand in number one or the other ones, the other major issues they raised? So for me, that's a non-issue, and I'm not bothered about how people prostitute from one party or the other. So whether they waive or don't waive, I'm not concerned.
But then there's that also, there's an additional concern. Yeah. Okay. Well, one of the other concerns of the party, talking about members as well, is that of the dissolution of all the organs of the party. How much do you think that will affect the morale of members of the party at the ward, local government level, and the state level?
Remember, historically, when control of the party, what he did was from the stronghold of Atiku Abubakar, the former vice president. What he did was to order a registration of all members from the ward. I know what that targeted. Everybody knew it. In Adamawa, they said that the man, they refused even to register him. So that's the way to take the party away from those who are controlling it presently. So and to hand it over to others, it didn't happen only at that time. Even merger that took place, structures they were in control of the structural governance, and when the opponent migrated their party, they took the entire structures and gave it to them. It happened in Kano, it happened in Sokoto, it happened in a couple of other places. So definitely the problem will come out of it. The issue that will come is that how weighty are the people affected in terms of the influence they will have in dislocating or dislodging the party in so and so area where they're affected. But definitely, potentially, it is a problem. There is a plus, there is a minus. It depends on where the balance stays, whether it is more of a plus or more of a minus.
Well, Mr. Adiba, as we wind down now, a lot of issues really, I'm sure we've not even scratched the surface. A lot of considerations. Like you said, there are a lot of factions in the party. But we're looking at a national convention being held, which is the highest organ meant to make decisions, basically to maybe solve these issues. There's a 2023 elections. Now, there are those who believe that this current caretaker committee is not telling the president the truth. For example, members of concerned APC members forum who have time and again said, well, this is not the way things should go. So he has asked that, what will be the resolution really? Do you see that national convention being the finality, just maybe?
Well, first and foremost, I don't like when politicians talk about the truth. Whose truth? So I want to talk about facts. If the allegation is they're not telling the president the facts on ground, because when a politician tells you truth, he has so many sides. He wants his own version of the story to be the truth.
Which one are you telling us now?
So I would like to work on the facts.
Okay, good.
And the facts on ground is that we know there are crises. There is a crisis within the party. The president must understand that there is a division or divisions within his party and he needs to work harder to bring all together. But having said that, you must also understand why APC had to dissolve their structure. Because once you allow new people to come in, I talked about the big egos and the big resources guys, and that is because of the absence of retail politics. Retail politics is a situation where the political party itself belongs to members of the party. You understand? So the party will go out like a company trying to sell shares and wool people. In the United States, for instance, even on campuses, you have the political parties having their wings in universities, recruiting young people to join the party. Once you have that kind of situation, you are not so much worried about who comes into the party. But what we have here is, because what we practice in all the political parties is wholesale politics. This guy is a big guy, Ayo is a big guy. Ayo is a governor, or Ayo has been a governor, and is the political leader of the state. If you get Ayo, you are going to get almost all the state. So bring Ayo in. So Ayo is coming into the party with his whole group. You cannot allow this political party structure that was in place before he crossed over to the party to stay. That means he's a stranger within the party. You've got to dissolve the structure of the party and give him a foothold. Mm-hmm. And so this is where the problem is. And I've been saying this, even in this studio, return the political party to the people.
I think that's a brilliant place, really, to let it land. Thank you for letting us know about his plans, really, to...
I was an example.
Okay, brilliant. But gentlemen, we'd like to thank you so much. I mean, that was on a lighter note. Mr. Curtis Aduma, lawyer and political consultant, as well as Professor Isaac Obasi, Professor of Public Policy and Industrial Relations, University of Abuja. Thank you so much.
Well, two messages very, very quickly. Sir Grillo says, about insecurity, Mr. Abu talked about people providing info to the security agencies. Who guarantees their safety afterwards? For giving info to security agencies, villages have been brutally attacked by Boko Haram terrorists. How about building trust and confidence with the people? First things first.
Again, the people. Mm-hmm. Well, Oladipo Olakuleyin says, the president needs to assure us more frankly that something is being done and then direct the creation of state police under the supervision of the MPF, while also approving the retirement of present leadership of our security agencies. Well, that state police bit will be majorly at the National Assembly, but I mean, we understand the point. There needs to be that political will from the executive.
Absolutely. Well, that's the program today. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day. I'm Ayo Makinde.
And I'm Kayode Okikelu. Thank you for your time.